Well, it was a violent weekend in a pair of U.S. cities. 6 people were stabbed on the subway here in New York City. Meantime, 21 people were shot in Chicago, with at least 5 killed. Joining us now to discuss, Joe Gamaldi, Vice President of the Fraternal Order of Police. Joe, it's always great to see you. I'm going to start here in New York City because the subway crime, the violence, that woman being pushed to her death, it's really plaguing this city. If people can't come back to the city and feel safe and use public transportation to get around, it's going to be very difficult for us to get back on our feet. What has to be done to clean up the subway system?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right, Jack. And I mean, just to give your viewers of just how bad it is, last year we had 16 American cities experience their highest murder rate on record. When we start looking at New York, there's no signs of it slowing down. Shootings are up 42%. Crime in the subway is up 65%. Slashings are up 35%. Now, I know they're announcing a new plan that they're going to flood the subway system with police officers. And make no mistake, we're going to catch these dirtbags that are out there cutting people with knives. But if the DA's office, which, by the way, with Alvin Bragg, he's already been a disaster for his first 2 months in office, if they just let these folks out after we catch them, nothing is going to change. And I mean, to your point, take Miss Lee, who was followed home by a monster who had just committed 27 acts of criminal mischief in the subway system. He was already out on 3 other cases. He followed her home and murdered her in cold blood. If he'd been held accountable, he never would have been free. So how do we fix it? We need to vehemently prosecute violent crime. We need to embrace the rule of law and broken windows theory. We need to support our police departments. That's how we get us on the right track and out of this disorder and chaos that we're seeing everywhere. Otherwise, unimaginable as it seems, it's only going to get worse.
So Eric Adams did address the problem in a speech that he gave, and he was talking about, trying to make it safer down there. Putting more police is one way, but he also brought up this sidebar issue, which essentially is the fact that people are living in the subway. Listen to this.
New Yorkers will see an increased presence of NYPD in trains and on stations. We're being proactive, and we're going to engage New Yorkers who are unhoused or dealing with mental health crises.
I mean, they're literally living on the trains. I stopped riding the subway well before the pandemic when I started to see that. You saw more and more people sleeping on the train, sleeping on the stairs as you were trying to leave the train. And from my understanding, I haven't been down there in over 2 years. It's gotten infinitely worse.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's crime and disorder everywhere you look in the city. There's basically open drug dens where they're just using drugs in front of people, and people don't feel safe. And we have to start addressing these issues. And listen, it's not all mental health issues. Some of these folks are just criminals that need to be handled with the criminal justice system. And of course, we can have diversion programs in place where we want to get these folks help. But sometimes you can't just give them a hug and a smile. Sometimes they actually need to be held accountable for their actions in order to get our communities back on track. I mean, look at what's going on in New York right now. You can't find a U-Haul truck in the tri-state area because so many people are leaving and wanting to get out. We need to provide safe streets. We need to provide safe communities because you know what? Everybody deserves to have the same opportunities and deserves to have the ability to prosper, but they can't do that right now, and people don't even feel safe taking their kids to school.
If I could just ask you in the last 30 seconds, Joe, the shootings in Chicago that I mentioned, you've got Mayor Lori Lightfoot there, just mum on the issue, completely silent.
You know, it's amazing. She's awfully quiet considering murders are up 100% in her city from the same point in 2019. But don't worry, she's got a handle on it. She said that carjackings are up because we had to switch to remote learning. Give me a break. It is time to start taking this problem seriously. And if you're living in a community where your politicians are saying idiotic things like that, you need to vote their asses out.
She was also the one who said that it was, the stores that had to get private security and start, chaining down the goods to make sure that they wouldn't get stolen. That's not exactly the answer that some people are looking for. Joe, good to see you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay. Well,